My name is Kira. I'm a PhD candidate in the individualized program at Concordia.
I'm Alanna Silver. I work with Waste Not Whatnot.
I joined Waste Not Whatnot in March, and I've recently completed my major in communication and cultural studies, and I'm finishing up a minor in sustainability at the Loyola College.
I founded Waste Not Whatnot in 2016, and I've been leading it ever since, alongside a really great team and collaborators. I'm also a Concordia Public Scholar for this year.
We at Waste Not Whatnot try and teach people how to compost better, and now that everyone's at home, maybe composting might be a little bit different from composting on campus.
And it wasn't until really I got to university that I realized that there were a lot of food scraps and recyclables that were ending up in the landfill, and half of what goes into the landfill can be composted instead, and that's a little heartbreaking. So I guess I wanted to play a part in getting some more information out there and helping people creatively use up their food waste as well as compost.
Waste Not started as a collaboration between students, professors, and administration. And the idea is that students and professors run an education campaign, help people learn how to sort, how to compost, and how to use the waste stations on campus. And then the administration end of the deal is to improve the infrastructure. So what this implies is that they would make compost bins more widespread and to localize where we compost.
Sadly, in Canada, about 63% of the food waste that ends up in the landfill that is lost or wasted is actually edible, unlike things like eggshells and chicken bones. This is bread that could have been eaten at one point. And a great resource for finding out a little more about this is the Love Food Hate Waste website. They do a little breakdown of all the foods that get lost or wasted, such as dairy and eggs, bread and bakery goods, leftovers, fruit and vegetables is by far the largest amount at, I think, 30%. Yeah. And Montreal as an epicenter is certainly a hotspot for food waste, what with restaurants and schools and more people eating out or overbuying food, not growing their own food, and less personal space to compost at home, for example. But we're all confined to our homes, so we've got a great time to practice home cooking and baking and beverage making and things like that. And these practices naturally align with sustainable and low waste lifestyles. And lots of foods still produce food waste, like onion skins and eggshells and chicken bones and stuff, but there are plenty of ways to give those items a longer life. And luckily in Montreal, municipal composting is relatively easy. But before resorting to compost, I think it's really important to think about reducing the amount of food waste that we produce initially further back in the supply chain. Like as soon as you enter the grocery store, before you even enter the grocery store, have a meal plan, get creative with what you have. So I guess these are a couple tips that I'm going to go over. Conscious shopping, use what you have, make things from scratch, grow and regrow food, and never waste your compost. First off, shopping consciously. Reducing food waste obviously starts at the planning and purchasing stage, meaning buy only what you need. Especially here in the West, we've been conditioned to overbuy, and our grocery stores overstock, which leads to greater food waste and greater food insecurity as well for others. So I don't care if you can afford to buy half the store, your stomach can only take so much, and that's the measurement you should be using to purchase your food, in my opinion. In terms of shopping consciously, making a rough meal plan, having an outline of what you're going to eat throughout the week is a strategy that we use here and that I've used throughout my life and works really well. And when doing this, think about what you can make from scratch, which I'll go over in more detail in a little bit. But if a meal calls for things like sauces, try to make them from scratch rather than buy that particular sauce at the store, because chances are you already have most of the raw ingredients lying around, and raw ingredients can be used in a variety of dishes, whereas a particular pasta sauce is generally used for a specific dish and may get left uneaten. And then next, like I said earlier, buy conservatively, because overbuying is one of the major culprits of food loss. But luckily, we can control this by what we put in our cart. And I think that's especially salient to underline right now as people are going grocery shopping and purchasing food for 3 weeks at a time. I think it's important to buy really what you know that you like eating, rather than like random items that you may never get on a regular day-to-day basis, and just end up hanging out in your pantry for who knows how long. The first thing that I do when I get back from grocery shopping is put at least half or even more of the meat that I get in the freezer. Generally, we'll toss it in a marinade and let it freeze so that it stays fresh. Right now, the freezer is like my best friend, even though it's a tiny little top freezer. But you can save all kinds of goodies in there. For example, I put my compost bin in there because as spring is coming, fruit flies get attracted to your compost. And so we actually keep our compost in the freezer and have had no fruit flies since that first initial visit. And also a full freezer is more energy efficient and economically run. I just wanted to throw in there that cooking and eating up the most perishable items first, like berries and leafy greens, is pretty important, because if fruits and vegetables on your countertop are starting to get soft, they need to be eaten and enjoyed when they're the most delicious, but they can also be placed in the freezer. I make plenty of smoothies with frozen fruit that I buy fresh. Next, use what you have. This is one of my favorites because it allows you to get really creative, and I'm an avid home chef, and I chefed around a little bit after high school and between university, and so I love making creative dishes with what I have. Using up herbs and spices, and especially leftovers, because those are a big culprit of food waste. And those small portions of like random foods that you use for one particular dish and don't really know what to do with. Look online for some recipe that includes them, and I promise you'll have something fun to make with them. Yeah, all those little things, they add up. That's next. We've got making things from scratch. This is another one of my favorites. So, for example, like bread and granola and tomato sauce and salad dressing and vegetable stock and bone broth, these are all easy things that you can make in your own home. And they tend to use very few ingredients that are easily accessible. But the two that I'll go over are the bread and vegetable stock that we make here at my house. I recently started making bread again from scratch. For a while I was eating gluten-free, and then I love bread so much that I had to bring it back. And the bread that I end up making here, just between my partner and I, doesn't even have time to go moldy because it gets gobbled up in a couple days, or a day and a half. Like probably a quarter of it gets eaten right after it comes out of the oven. But sadly, there's about 750,000 loaves of bread that are thrown out in Canada every day. That's a lot of bread. This is a picture of a loaf that we made the other day, and it's already gone. So I couldn't show it with my props. But it's really easy. It's water, salt, yeast, flour. And I haven't made a sourdough starter here. I have in the past, but I haven't done one here. But those are pretty easy as well. And then you don't even need yeast. You can really just feed your own live culture with flour. There's so many recipes out there. I don't have a Dutch oven or a bread maker, so this is my creative take on how to make bread without those items, which is pretty easy. And then in terms of stock is an awesome way to reuse your vegetable scraps, such as onion skins, carrot ends, celery, garlic, ginger. All of the scraps that come from using these vegetables can be stored in a freezer, and when you have enough to make some stock to fill up a pot, do so, and you have this delicious, beautiful, like amber colored beverage that you can put in pasta, you can put in soups, you can make rice with it, and it'll be super flavorful. It's good for your gut health, and it's so darn easy. You really just throw everything in a pot, add some bay leaves, salt to taste, and voila. You can also do a bone broth version with chicken bones or other animal bones if you wish. This process takes a little longer than the 30 to 45 minutes because the bone marrow has to reduce. And my mom used to do this all the time, and I've only done it once here, but it was really good. And there are plenty of tutorials on all of this online for making vegetable stock and bone broth from scratch. And next, here we go, growing and regrowing. This is another one of my favorites. I guess maybe they're all my favorites. Planting a garden from seeds might be the most obvious. Growing vegetables from vegetable cuttings is also a lot of fun. And then fertilizing plants with eggshells are a couple of creative things you can do, which is why I've brought some friends here. I just started these carrots the other day when we were making up stock, and they've already started to grow little guys there. So these will grow, and you can plant them in soil when they're ready. You just need to make sure you have a deep pot. And what else? Oh yeah, eggshells. So I save all my eggshells and I grind them up using a mortar and pestle, or if you have enough, you'd need quite a few, but if you have enough, you can throw them in a blender. And I soak these in water, and I water my plants with them every morning, and it's a healthy dose of calcium for the plants, and they are very happy. Speaking of happy plants, I've got some peppers to be here. These are from about a week and a half ago. We made stuffed peppers, and I was like, look at all these seeds. Let's try planting them. And my partner was like, that's not going to happen. They're not going to show up. And all of a sudden I have about 100 little seedlings that I need to replant and give more room to. So it can be done. You just got to get creative. And there's so many other things that you can do with vegetable cuttings. I've seen people grow lettuce and celery and things like that. They just need some sunlight and some water and some calcium with your eggshells, and they'll be very happy. And never waste your compost.
First of all, I want to go over what's compostable at Concordia. So obviously all organic food matters. So fruits, vegetables, meats, dairy, coffee, and plastic number 7 are compostable, as well as cardboard, paper, and anything like that coffee stir stick, although I don't think anyone has any of those lately. So recyclables are any paper without food products on it, glass, metal, plastics number 1 to 5. Garbage is anything else, so styrofoam, aluminum foil, plastic number 6, and anything you're not sure of. So that's at Concordia. Depends where you live in the city of Montreal, your composting might be a little bit different. So I'm gonna share the screen here now. The first link that comes up is the Ville de Montreal. You click on this link, and it's super helpful in terms of here. If you click on the right side, you'll see info collects. You click on this, you put in your postal code, and it'll tell you according to your neighborhood what days the compost is picked up, what days the garbage is picked up, what days the recycling is picked up. So it's super easy. If you're not sure of how to do it, you just go to this website. If you're not sure what to compost, you click here on food waste on the left side, and you scroll down, and it'll tell you what materials are accepted and refused. The only difference I can find with the Eastern versus Western zone is that in the Western zone, you can compost your green waste, so anything from your yard, if anyone's fixing up their yard right now. Otherwise, it looks the same. So the differences between the composting at home versus composting at Concordia that I could find is that at home, you can only compost pizza boxes or chicken boxes. At school, you can compost any recycled material, any paper material. At Concordia, you can recycle your Tim Hortons cup if it's cleaned out, as well as the lid if it's plastic number 5. At home, you cannot recycle your Tim Hortons coffee cup. Hopefully everyone is drinking their coffee from home now anyways. Basically anything that you see here is compostable. And if you're not sure if you're in the Eastern versus Western zone, you just click on this map here, and it goes by neighborhood and it tells you what's compostable in your neighborhood. And that's about it. So if anyone wants to try composting at home, now's the time to do it. And this is the website you go to learn how to compost.
So localizing our compost is important because organics that we collect on campus get shipped all the way to Ontario, which is about 140 kilometers away. to get composted, and that translates to 13% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we would save because of composting get re-emitted again because of transportation involved in the process. We have to recognize that globally, transportation is responsible for 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. So this is something that we should be mindful of. So my team and I are responsible for the education campaign, and we have been collaborating closely with the Loyola College. In terms of infrastructure, before we started in 2016, there were only 9 locations on campus that had compost bins in them. Now there are over 100 locations. So that has been progressing well, and it should continue because there's a lot of opportunities that we see to better capture organics around campus. So for example, places like the animal care facilities, the gyms downtown, and the perform center, bathrooms are also a very good opportunity because it's all like paper towels that are 100% compostable, yet this still goes to landfill. So this is something that we should be looking at. So usually our approach is to have as broad an impact as possible. So we do a couple things based on that. Is activity with the broadest impact is anyone organizing events on campus where food is served, we want to collaborate with them. So let's say the Four Space is organizing a big event, serving food. We ask you to make sure there's a compost bin available in the venue, and we send you ambassadors to stand next to the waste station and help people learn how to sort out their waste. So we've been doing this since 2016, but if I would share some data from this academic year, so over 35,000 people attended events where our ambassadors were present since last September, between September and now. So that's the equivalent of the entire undergraduate population at Concordia. The other part is of what we do is that we are really determined on reaching everybody at Concordia, and the additional way we plan to do that is by class presentation that you've mentioned. So the idea is that we pick core classes of every faculty. So I used to be an engineering undergraduate at Concordia, and every engineering students have to take a certain number of core classes, irrespective of their program or their department. They all have to do those same classes. And so our approach has been to choose a core one of those classes and present to it every time it's offered. So that way, over a few years, we reach the entire undergraduate population in engineering. And so we do this with every faculty. So I've been doing this for about a year now. And since September, we have presented to about 4,500 students. And we're very grateful to the event organizers that include our ambassadors, as all student association, dean of students, hospitality, president's office, alumni. And we have been also to a few events at Four Space. And we're also grateful to the professors who let our team present to their classes. It's about a 5-minute waste tutorial. The other events that we do is a monthly bring your own mug, free coffee and popcorn event. So essentially we book an atrium of a building. So every month we do different building, and we give people free coffee if they have their own mug. So if they don't have their mugs, they don't get any coffee, but everybody gets popcorn. So everybody's happy. And we get to talk to them a bit about how to sort waste. So it's like a 30-second interaction. So essentially tells them, we point out where the compost bin is on that atrium. And we say, you see this compost bin there with the orange lid. It's here, it's for organic waste. You use it to throw leftover food, soil, paper, no plastics, no coffee cups. So it's just 30 seconds. So yeah, usually we have about 500 people per event. Now, obviously, since the COVID-19 pandemic started and everything is sort of slowing down, so all of this is on pause, but our social media is still super active. So this is one way a lot of people who are watching can get engaged with us. So I encourage people to just follow us. It's CU Compost on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. One thing that we do now is that we ask people to participate in our picture campaign from home. So we have the sign that people can download. I should have printed it. But we have the signs that people can download from our website. It's concordiacompost.ca/photos. And you would print it, and it has our logo and a hashtag. And then we ask people to write a personal message, essentially anything that's most authentic to you. So it's personal. And we ask them to take a selfie with it and post it, tagging us. Or if you prefer, they can just send it to me, and I share it on our social media. So this is something that we hope a lot of people do. If you don't have a printer, they can use any piece of paper, or they can just write the message digitally. This is what Monica had done. So this is part of the social media part. And it's been quite an adventure, and it's really fulfilling to see the kind of impacts that we've been having. So one of the things that our team does is scan all the invoices that Concordia pays for the waste company. So we know exactly how much Concordia composts, how much exactly Concordia recycles and sends to landfill. And since Waste Not has started, Concordia has actually doubled its annual composting. So we used to compost about 43 metric tons in a year. Now it's about 92, 93 metric tons in a year. And you can actually access all this data on our website as well as concordiacompost.ca/data. You can download all the raw table of months by months, and you can just see over like an overview graph. In terms of overall waste, so this is everything that we generate. So it's composting plus recycling plus landfill. This has went down by 16% per person. That's 2 months worth of garbage every year that just disappeared. And so this is something that we're very, very proud of. It takes the entire community. It's not just us, a small team of people. Like there's no magic tricks to waste reduction. People have to choose not to buy some of the stuff they don't need. And none of us have stood at a cashier counter preventing people from buying things they're going to throw away 5 minutes later. So it really took like thousands of people really reflecting on their own habits and taking that message to heart. The other piece of data that we collect is that we have an intern that tours every floor of every building in both campuses, and they take pictures of every compost bin. And the reason we do that is that we want to get an idea, a visible idea of contamination in compost bins. So this is a big problem, because if you have plastic in a compost bin and you're trying to transform this organics into fertilizers, which is what composting is, if you have plastic in there, it doesn't work very well. So contamination in general is a very big problem. So this is why we go on tour and take those pictures, and we do this once a semester, so it's only like a snapshot. And in winter of 2019, 32% of compost bins outside had visible signs of contamination. In winter of 2020, only 20% had signs of contamination. So it's going down. You have to be careful because it's only a snapshot, so we don't track it for the entire semester. But it's an indication that people are listening. It's not all rosy though, because actual diversion rate of Concordia is still stagnant, even though composting has doubled and waste has reduced. So diversion has been about 23% since 2016, has not really changed very much since. And the reason for that is because, with the exception of composting, all other streams have decreased. So composting has doubled, but recycling and landfills have reduced tangibly. Now, recycling is a myth, so that doesn't bother me very much. But what we need to do is to better capture organics, because after all, half of what we send to landfills every year is organic. So we need to better capture this out of our waste streams. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of different opportunities where we can do this. Bathrooms is a big place. Is a big place where we can separate our organics that we send to landfills. The other piece of data that I think we should use to inform our actions moving forward is that those compost bins are very small and very light, so they're very easy to move around. So oftentimes people move them and nobody notices, and then they just disappear. So this is another thing that we get from those tours. And so another objective, in addition to looking at contamination, is figuring out which compost bins have disappeared. So right now there's about 15% of locations that should have compost bins don't. So all of these are on our website, and hopefully it informs, hopefully it helps facilities management to return the compost bins, because if you don't know, they can't return things. So the bottom line is that we're making a lot of progress, but this harder work remains ahead, and we're determined to continue working with the entire community to sustain and build on that progress.